Well, hello. Good evening. Welcome to When Wisdom Talks. I'm Alisha.
And I'm Kadesha.
And I'm Naomi. And welcome to When Wisdom Talks. And I brought a little friend with me, Flamingo the Hun. And she wanted to say hi to everybody this afternoon, this evening.
Hey, Flamingo.
Hi, Hun.
So everybody say hi, Flamingo the Hun.
Hi, Flamingo the Hun.
I hope everyone is having a great Thursday or has had a great Thursday. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of When Wisdom Talks with your trio host, Alisha, Kadesha, and myself. And we're so excited to have this opportunity to share with you. Every Thursday, we spend this 1 hour of time with all of you. So thank you for sharing that time with us. After you've worked all day, you've come home, you cooked dinner, whatever it is, we thank you that you took out that time to spend with us. Of course, you know, we always have you in mind when we're preparing our shows and thinking of things that we can share with you. So tonight is no different. We have an amazing show, some great information that we're going to be sharing with you between the three of us. And Kadesha is going to fill us in on that. But I got to let you know what our mission is. And that is to empower all of you to live better and wiser through engaging discussions, fun activities, and inspiring special guests like Flamingo the Hunt. And so with that, I'm going to pass it on. You never know what you're going to get and who's going to show up on our show. The Flamingo here in Baltimore, especially in the Hamden area, is sort of like a celebrity. So we have a celebrity guest tonight with Flamingo the Hunt. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and kick it on over to Kadesha.
Girl, when you first popped up, I said, wait, that thing going to bite her in her head. Like it was so cool. But I love it. Hey, Flamingo, welcome to the show. I guess it's a foursome now. I don't know. Maybe. Yes.
She'll make an appearance here and there, depending on how she feels. We have to talk about
it. Sounds good. How you two making out in the heat? You guys all right? You drinking your water?
All right.
Yes, indeed. It's been a whole hot week. Like, I don't think we've had any rain all week, which I'm not complaining, right? So it can hold off. So I can definitely get my barbecue and July 4th on over the weekend. But it is full-fledged summertime, y'all. So welcome to the show. We are excited to have you. Speaking of summertime, this month, the month of June, actually today is the last day of the month, believe it or not. And so we've been talking about summer fun all month. And so while you're out there having a good time and two-stepping and trying new places, we want to make sure that you are aware of your surroundings as well. And so this week we're going to be talking about, and we're going to make light of it, right? So we just want you to be aware. We don't want you to be fearful. We don't want you to be anxious. We want you to be out having a good time, but we want you to be cautious, right? And so this week, we're talking about how to prepare for, or the importance of emergency preparedness. Okay, come on, Jesus. So basically how to prepare for an emergency inside your home, outside your home, right? So there's been a lot going on in the world, which Is always going to be the case, right? The world is the world, but we can be prepared as we go into these different places. Again, we don't want you to be fearful. We want you to enjoy the summer fun, but we want you to be safe. And so tonight we're going to tackle again the importance of emergency preparedness. So I'm actually looking forward to some of the things that maybe, I haven't thought about, right? Or as I get ready to prepare for a family, these are the things that I will have to prepare my family as well. So I'm looking forward to all the juicy wisdom nuggets that we're going to get tonight. Before we get into the show, though, make sure you are sharing, make sure you are following. So follow us on Instagram at When Wisdom Talks. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page and go ahead and hit the like button on our Facebook. We want to hear from you as well in the comments. Aunt Linda's already given us a shout out. Hey, Aunt Linda, how are you? Our faithful When Wisdom Talks family. I love it. I love it. I love it. Here comes Patricia. Good evening, Patricia. I was just thinking about you. So we are excited to have you on. So talk back to us. As we're talking to you, we want you to talk back to us. Talk to us in the chat. Talk to each other in the chat. You never know who you will meet. I promise you. Divine connections are all over the place. If you want to learn more about us, the three of us, and our nonprofit, Wisdom on the Wall Inc., you can go to wisdomonthewallinc.com. If you ever want to get in contact with us and you don't have our information personally, you can always email us at info@wisdomonthewall.com. We love to hear from you. We love to receive your encouragement. Any prayer requests that you may have, we are a praying group of women. So love to hear from you. Without further ado, I'm going to kick it on over to Miss Alisha.
All right. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Well, for those of you who've been around for a while, this is our Tell Me Something Good. Hey, we on point tonight. Look at that. No delay, no delay. I love it. So yes, this is our Tell Me Something Good segment. This is the time where we're going to share some good stories, maybe about, I don't know, something we saw on television, a movie, an excursion. It could be anything, telling all three of us, who knows? But it's going to be something good nevertheless, all right? And as Kadesha mentioned, please, while we're sharing, go ahead and share some good stuff with us, because we not only like to share good news, we like to read and hear and receive good news, all right? So I'll go ahead and kick us off. And I guess my Tell Me Something Good is funny, and it's also... as Kadesha mentioned, this is the last day of the month, and this month is the month that, men are highlighted the most in terms of Father's Day. And then we also dealt with last week the whole point of men's health awareness. So I felt it was fitting. Of course, I like to laugh. So, leave with something funny, but also a nod to our men. For those who are fathers, and, if you remember when you were newly minted as a dad, the mother of your child, when she left for the first time and left you in charge of your little baby, she probably called you, texted you numerous times to make sure everything was okay with the little ones, making sure you fed them, changed them, and all the good stuff. Well, this particular story that I saw the other day, and I was like, okay, I definitely got to share this. This guy was like, okay, look, I am a grown up. I know how to take care of my child. So what he did was, when, in this case, it's his girlfriend, when she went back to work after maternity leave, she was texting him, making sure the baby was okay. And then after however many texts, and she was asking, did you feed the baby? He was just like, you know what? I'm going to get her. So he started photoshopping pictures of their baby. Now they've since had another one as well. But can you imagine, when I saw this, all I could think was, what did the mother think when she got this? Because he didn't even text her back. He just started sending her pictures. So you look at this falcon or whatever that thing is, done took the baby. And then under here, some of the captions on these pictures are hilarious. And he's like, you never found, for this picture, he said, you never know what you'll find under the couch when you're cleaning. And it's just amazing. And I'm thinking, like, she's probably at work having a heart attack. But actually, this man has racked up a total, actually more than 160,000 people on. If you see the baby in the background, this is the 2-year-old birthday, and the baby is flying away with the balloon. But he has racked up over 160,000 followers on Instagram. His name is Kenny, and his 2 children, the oldest one is Alex, and the one in the back that's flying away with the balloons is Aster. And he actually, once a week, he posts these pictures up, and people just love it. And he has a great following of men who are, looking at these pictures. But what he was talking about was that, he wants women to understand that men can take care of the kids as well. And this is kind of like a nod to the fact that, as men, they could be good dads and do what they need to do. But he was saying that, it just kind of took off. He just was, sending that out, and it just went to another level. So people are actually like talking about how looking forward to it they are on those Tuesdays when he posts them. But he was sharing how he actually does it with Photoshop, and he says some of the pictures are easier than others. There's like one where the kid is standing, it looks like the child is standing in glass, and the caption is like, the kid is teaching, the child is saying, Dad is teaching me the importance of wearing shoes. And it's cute. It will make you laugh. So I just wanted to throw that as a nod to our men, to know that, your wives, your significant others, the mothers of your children, do believe that you are well equipped to take care of the kids. And don't worry, the stork is not taking your baby away. So that is my Tell Me Something Good tonight. Hopefully it gave somebody a nice little laugh.
Now, I'm sure it made us laugh, but I'm wondering if the wives and the mothers will be even more relaxed or even more on edge. That's the question of the hour. We like to be in control of everything.
Absolutely. He was done with it, though. He was like, you know what? I ain't even going to respond. I'm going to send her this picture. And like I said, she probably had a heart attack. Like, what the world?
That's funny. I've been speaking to a lot of dads lately that have been actually taking advantage of the paternity leave alongside their significant other. So I always kudos to dads who, want to stay home, or maybe they just trying to take advantage of time off from work. Who knows? But nonetheless, I'm glad that, HR honors that, right? And recognizes that, that dads need time off as well. So
that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, that is huge. Especially if somebody's not getting any sleep, then, you got to take turns, right?
You got to share the wealth.
Share the burden. Okay.
I was going to say burden, but I wanted to make it positive. All right. So what's going on over there with the two of you?
I love it. So I mentioned, talking to the audience, make sure you're chatting and talking back and talking to each other, because divine connections can happen anywhere. And so I just wanted my Tell Me Something Good is about some divine connections that have taken place. This past Saturday, I was sharing with someone, I don't remember, but I guess I was having a whole moment, right? So as an encourager, sometimes you want to be encouraged, and sometimes you want just kind of that in I guess company, right? So I end up having a pretty full day on Saturday, but I was able to meet and greet with many different people, and it kind of gave me that that I needed, right? That empowerment boost, if you will. And so I met this young 20-something, love it, who is just so amazing, right? So just wants to empower women. And she didn't know where to start. And so I'm like, this is great. We can help each other. I'm like, we've been looking for someone who can really, go after the youth, and we can help you and all this other stuff. So anyway, she's just amazing. She really wants to just share her story on how she has overcome and how she is overcoming, but really has a heart for youth. And so she also is a newlywed. So they've been married, I think she said it, since April, so a few months. And so her husband was equally amazing. He just graduated from, I think, Towson. And so anyway, it's just young couple on fire for life, on fire for God, and just want to make a difference, and just loved it. Like their whole spirit and conversation really just, it was me and a colleague, just boosted us. Like, it's something about looking at young people, because like we know where we were when we was 20 something, and we may or may not been on the right track. So just to see people so young and so wise, right, and so dedicated to, you know, the purpose that God has for them was just inspiring. So shout out to Kayla if she is watching. I did share the show with her tonight. So that's divine, connection number one. And divine connection number two, my mother was telling me, so mom and Mr. Sonny made it back safely. Thank God. It was like I was on edge. I felt like I was the mom for a minute. Like, what is going on? I'm normally the one traveling, and mom's at home calling and texting. And we're all like, did you talk to mom? Did you talk to your sister? But they were able to get away, have a good time, spend some time with Mr. Sonny's family. And so today she was telling me how she met this like young man on the plane, and she just was so impressed with all of his accomplishments. Like, I think she said he's a PhD or has a doctorate degree. He went to Delaware State. So it was so funny. Like, they flew from one airport out of Philly, and they would end up flying to the same area, I think, in St. Louis. So it's like they connected on the way there, then they ran into each other on the way back, and like became like instant family. And and I was like, Mom, you always have this thing where she has like these long lost sons, right? So, and it's just that kindred spirit. So they just had a really good connection, and he was talking to her and Mr. Sonny on the plane, and it just made my heart smile. You know, you never know why God's doing what he's doing, but it's like, enjoy the moment, enjoy the conversation. You don't know how you inspired him. And my mom, of course, telling him how proud of him she is. I'm like, oh my goodness, I just love it. So I love meeting people, because you just never know what that looks like or what that turns into. And even if it's for a moment, right? It's like that feel good is like, that just makes you feel good for a moment, then that's worth it, right? So those are my hey Kayla, she's watching. So those are my two tell me something good divine connection stories.
Oh, I love it. It's always encouraging when you meet or you hear about some young ones that are really on fire, that are really purpose driven, because you see so much in the news, or you hear so much of the negative, and it calls you to be concerned. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're just like, Lord, what is it going to look like when I'm older and, dependent on them to do what they're supposed to do? And you kind of get a little miffed about it. But it's always great to hear when there's some out there doing some positive. So shout out to you, Kayla. Welcome to the fam.
And it only takes one to do it right? One, so yes. You don't need a whole generation. We would love a whole generation, but it only takes one to make a difference. So I trust that her and her husband will be that one.
Love it. And that one can inspire so many. So that's why it only really takes one, because you need that one to be the example, and they could ignite a whole new generation, a whole new group of people. So
that's right. Yeah. And that's what they said. They said he must has a social media following. He was like, people were hitting him up in his IG DM like, you got married at what age? And now people are, the men want to step up and follow suit. So you're right on, Naomi.
Love it. Yeah. Little fire starters.
Right. Speaking of talking about family and such, thank God it's summer. That's my tell me something good. Thank God it's summer. My children finally finished school. Last week, was it last week? Oh yeah, last week. Or actually a week before last. So we've had a whole full week, almost 2 weeks off now. And let me just tell you, for a mom who's been at home with the kids and making sure they're getting their work and stuff done, summertime is just as important for me as it is for them. And so I want to give a shout out to all of the parents who have homeschooled or their children are a part of virtual learning programs. Kudos to all of you, because it takes a lot of dedication and love and care to do that. So shout out to all of you all. Actually, I got into the boat during the pandemic when we were forced to homeschool our children in a way, or monitor them while they were doing schooling through the virtual learning program. And so gratefully, Baltimore County has a virtual learning program that they continued from the pandemic. And so for me, I decided to keep the children in the program, uh, basically because there was still a lot of cases of COVID still going around. Wanted to protect them, but also because they were doing so well because they had that personal interaction with their teachers. The classrooms weren't as crowded, so the teachers could personally text them, inbox them, and so the experience was really great and has been great. So, but I'm going to say that I am so happy that it's summer because now we all get a break. I'm quite certain I got on their nerves as much as they got on mine. And so this weekend, thank God for family. They will be gone from Friday to Monday. Praise the Lord. And this is what I said. I was texting my family member, my aunt Teresa, who told me, actually, I talked to her yesterday, and she said, she doesn't say much, but she watches and she loves when wisdom talks. And I was so grateful. She said, I didn't get a chance to tell you. So I'm giving a shout out to my aunt Teresa. I love you. I know she probably like, girl, you ain't had to do all that. My aunts are so funny. but they are watching and they're paying attention. So shout out to her. But yes, so what I was saying was that they are ready to get rid of us just as much as we are ready to get rid of them this weekend. Maybe they are more so looking forward to getting rid of us than we are of them because they're preteen, and well, Lily is a preteen and my son is a teenager. So they're right at that age where they're ready to ditch their parents and do their own thing, but that's all right. It's an equal opportunity, a win-win situation for us. They get to take their break and we get to take ours, and then we'll love each other the more we come back together. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. So we're looking forward to a little absence from one another. And then come back together, reconvene, and love on each other a little more.
I know you and Titus are like, look, you ain't hurting our feelings. You go right ahead.
Not at all. Thank you. You kicking us to the curb. Absolutely wonderful. Great.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Hey,
I love it.
you. Our prayers are with you, and God is with you too.
Wait a minute. So you said they leave when, on tomorrow?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. And they come back when?
Late on Monday.
Look, you said late on Monday, not this Monday. Late on Monday.
On Monday. Yes. Yes,
Woo-woo.
indeed.
Love it.
Thank the Lord for family members and their generosity.
I love it. I love it. Oh, wow. Well, wonderful. Love the updates, ladies. All righty. Well, I'm back.
Hello.
Oh my goodness. Bloopers.
Hello, right. I'm going to do something a little different tonight, and instead of turning it over to Kadesha, I'm going to turn it over to Naomi.
Surprise. Yes, it is my duty, and I'm happy to do so, to prepare you for our topic tonight. And we are going to be talking about the importance of emergency preparedness. And of course, the world has changed so much, even with COVID. None of us saw it coming. None of us expected to be in our homes for 2 years practically and still having restrictions in certain areas. None of us expected that. However, that is life. Things happen that we don't always expect. And so the beauty of emergency preparedness is to kind of mitigate some of the stresses that come along with emergencies that happen. And it's called an emergency for a reason, because it's an abrupt, disruption to normal life, things that you can't necessarily always predict. So the preparedness is something that we're going to talk about and why it's important to do that. So I have a little slideshow here that I want to share with you. So the importance of emergency preparedness, that is our topic. I want to go over the definition of emergency preparedness with you, because I think it's best to level set, so at least you know from a basic standpoint what it means. And uh, emergency preparedness is defined by the Department of Health and Human Services and FEMA as a continuous cycle of planning, organizing, training, equipping, exercising. So doing those exercises, those fire drills that you do in school, evacuating, and taking corrective action in an effort to ensure effective coordination during incident response. This cycle is one element of a broader national preparedness system to prevent, respond to, and recover from natural disasters, acts of terrorism, and other disasters. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of some of the emergencies that could come up. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of those, go a little bit into detail. The types of disasters include tornadoes and severe storms, like the ones we've been seeing a lot popping up in the South. And in Texas and different places, in Louisiana, hurricanes and tropical storms,
Oh,
floods.
Naomi, are we supposed to be seeing your screen?
You can't see it?
We can see one slide, but not the one you and I want to make sure I get that on video. I mean on camera.
Let me see. Give me 1 second.
Yep, no worries.
All righty.
There we go.
Be able to see all of them.
Yep.
So let me just do it like this. I would have loved to do the big screen so you could see it in full, but so yes, tornadoes and severe storms, hurricanes and tropical storms. Let me do it like this. Floods, wildfires, earthquakes, droughts, and I added this one, disease outbreak, because that wasn't on the list, but it's definitely one that needs to be included, because there is a level of preparedness that comes along with that, things that you can do to prepare for disease outbreak as well. Then we have the benefits of being prepared. The benefits of being prepared. Preparation can save lives. That's the number one thing. Whenever you're preparing for a disaster of any kind, or emergency rather of any kind, the goal and the objective is always to save lives, as many as you can. Preparation can reduce fear, anxiety, and losses that accompany disasters. And that means loss of homes, property, items, whole schools and neighborhoods sometimes are destroyed because of emergencies. So all of the preparation is important to protect against loss and reduce fear and anxiety. The next is preparation can reduce the impact of disasters and sometimes avoid the danger completely. So if you're prepared enough, you may be able to avoid the impending dangers of an emergency, which is great. That's good news for us. So preparation definitely has its benefits. And then preparation can make recovery easier. So it's like you're preparing to an end, where you're preparing so that on the back end, you won't have as much to worry about if you have things in place. So again, that's preparation can save lives. It can reduce fear, anxiety, losses that accompany disasters, reduce the impact of disasters, and sometimes avoid the danger completely, and can make recovery easier. Now, I'm going to hope that this video shows. The whole point was I wanted you to see the whole video, but we will see. Let's see what happens here. Can you hear it? Maybe not.
Having a basic emergency management plan for every organization is extremely important. No matter where you live in the United States, or even for the world for that matter, there's always the potential for some type of an event to take place, an unforeseen event, whether it be a hurricane. This past winter, we had a lot of winter storms. We've had tremendous wildfires in California. No matter where we live and work, there's always the chance for a disaster to happen. The Red Cross mission is to provide a wealth of services, but also in providing information. We have a multitude of apps. We have an emergency app, a first aid app, a hurricane, tornado, earthquake. So there's a wealth of information out there that are most critical things that people need to know as a storm is approaching, as a hurricane is approaching, but then also what to do after a storm has passed. So what have you done to get ready? Have you gotten a preparedness plan? Have you discussed it with your family? Do you need to evacuate? If you need to evacuate, where you're going to go, have a plan, stay informed, get a kit, because all of those things are vital to maintaining your safety. To the world, you may be one person, but to one person, you may be the world. And I think that Red Cross individuals are the world to many people across the United States when faced with disasters.
And so that gives a little bit more information about the importance of emergency preparedness. And what I like about that is that the American Red Cross is one of those companies or agencies or organizations that actually help you to prepare. And they have a lot of free resources for people who may need more information, or if you want to learn more about why you need to prepare, you can go to American Red Cross, to their website, and you can learn more there. So I hope I sufficiently paved the way for you ladies in terms of letting everyone know why it's so important for us to prepare for emergencies and what it really means to prepare.
Wow, that was really good, Naomi. And definitely you did your job and some, right? So I loved how you excuse me, how you put it together. Like you made it very simple for us to follow. And as I was watching it, I'm like, man, we really need to be teaching. We were talking about the generations. We really need to be teaching the youth this, right? So and I love the two things, the first two on the benefits, saving lives and reducing fear and anxiety. Like that is so key. Like we all firmly believe that God doesn't want us to live an anxious life. And so if we're prepared, then that reduces the fear and the anxiety. And so it's no secret, viewing audience, that we are women of faith. Okay. So our wisdom, the wisdom that we believe that we walk in is the wisdom that comes from heaven and comes from God, right? And so the wisdom that we're going to be providing you is that which was imparted on, in our hearts. And so as I was watching that clip, I thought about one of the disasters that happened in the Bible, right, with Noah's Ark. And the thing about them being prepared was God gave Noah instruction. And so even if you're not woman and men of faith, since you connected to us, you family, and you're going to be in the ark. So if you just follow the instruction, you could be, protected. And so I love, I love how it tied together. So it was an awesome opening. So for me, my job and my assignment is how we can prepare for emergencies in public places, right? So there's inside the home, outside of the home. Emergencies happen in all areas, right? And so for me, again, my assignment tonight is to prepare for public places. And so I was just having a conversation actually with someone earlier, and one of the things that she said that she prays every day is, God, order my steps. And so that's first and foremost, right? As we are embarking on the world, going to work, job, or your business, family, grocery store, post office, because things have happened in almost all these places, right? We just really need to stop and pray. It don't have to take long, 30 seconds, 2.5 seconds, whatever it is. God, order my steps, and be sensitive enough to listen if he may be reordering the steps, right? And maybe changing the direction. You may always go down 95, but this time he may want you to take the back roads. So it's just about praying, God, order my steps before you go out into the world, right? Because at home, you're a little bit more protected, but then once you go out, you have outside influences. And so one of the things I do, because I do spend a lot of time outside of my house, is even when I'm out, I'm praying and walking, right? So I may be in a grocery store, because once I'm out, I still need the protection, and I still need God to direct and order my steps. So I'm not the loud one praying, but I'm like, okay, I can walk around the track and pray. I can be in a grocery store and just really just stay in the flow, right? So I never want us to underestimate the power of prayer. And so I wanted to start off with that, because God is still a God who responds and hears our prayers, right? And so as you're thinking about, because the funny thing is we're humans, so we're humans of habit. So there are places that we go all the time. And so if there's that grocery store, that shopping store, wherever you go frequently, make sure, and even if you're not going, but definitely if you're going on a regular basis, make sure you're taking notice of all of the exits, right? And so that's one thing that they do when you're on, when you're flying. They, before you take off, and prayerfully you ain't sleep like sometimes I am. I'm like, Lord, I can't even make it through the announcements by the pilot. But they highlight the exits, right? And they confirm with the people who are sitting in the exit row, you sure you want this responsibility? So make sure that when you're in the movie theater, when you're in the grocery store, when you are going out into these public places, be aware of where the exits are, right? So you can dart if you need to dart. Also be aware of your surroundings, not just the exit signs, but people and things and items, right? I had someone sharing a story with me maybe earlier this week where they were headed, I think they were actually just going to be what they call it, window shopping, but they was headed to a mall and they was at the light, and at the light they could see like people were coming out and there were, police around. And so instead of trying to be nosy or trying to figure out what's going on, they said, well, let me turn on the local news. And so, but being vigilant, right? And being alert of what's happening. Because if you're not paying attention, because sometimes we're on autopilot when we're driving. If you're not paying attention, they may have not seen people coming out. They may not have seen the police. So just be aware of your surroundings. And unfortunately, there was an incident happening at that particular mall. And so again, it's just about being aware, and kind of a sub point of that is knowing your local news stations. So if you do see something may already be happening, right? And you can just dial right on into, I don't know, WJBR. That's not one, but that is a station, but not a news station. But know your local news station. And actually that's something I need to do, because I listen to Pandora, honestly, when I'm in the car. So that was one of the points that I want to make sure I write down for myself. But knowing the local news station, so as you're en route, you may need to redirect if something is being said on the news. Another point I want to highlight is travel light, women. Okay, this is not the time to be taking your luggage bags, your big old pocketbook with everything in it, mother. I'm guilty too, but travel light. So a lot of times lately, really because it's more convenient. Okay, sidebar. These big old bags is why we be having back problems half the time. That's probably why my back hurting, because my book bag got too much in it. But travel light, they have cute pouches. They have things that can go over your shoulder. I wish I would have had one of my over shoulder bags. But travel light when you're going into these places. You don't got to take your whole library and your whole Bible and everything into the store with you. Are you going to be reading your Bible in the aisle? I'm just saying, leave some of it in the car, because if you have to run, I'm telling you, this is preparing for emergency. If you got to run, you got the whole bag and your whole lunchbox in the bag with you. So travel light, find something cute. Okay, I actually know somebody selling Michael Kors bags if you need a cute one. But make sure your bag is small. And of course, it has one of the things my mom always told me. I always remember, I may not listen to nothing else when I was 16, but she said, always have your ID on you. And so even if I'm going up the street, my gym is about 5 minutes maybe. Even if I'm about to walk out, that always just comes back in my mind. Make sure you have ID, because God forbid, I want somebody to be able to identify me, honey, if something happened, right? Again, not placing fear or anything like that, but we're just being prepared and helping you become aware of some of these things. The other thing is rehearse with your family. So even if you don't have small children, definitely if you do, right? Because you need to have them prepared when you're out. Okay, if mom give you, y'all can have a little sign or signal or whatever, like they do in the baseball games, like if you put up a 2 sign or whatever, this means run. But rehearse with your family. Okay, we're going to know where the exit signs are. We go to this place all the time. Let's be aware. Your parents, your siblings, whomever is close to you, right? Whoever you want to save their lives, as Naomi reminded us, just rehearse with them as well. Because if everybody knows, then everybody can be on the one accord, and everybody can be running out together. I don't know why I keep talking about this running. And I think that leads me to my next point. Indeed, it does. Okay. do some exercise. This is so real. Like if you're ever in an instance in which you have to run for your life, okay, let's not wait to then for it to kick in. Let's do a little bit of exercise, a little bit of stretching at home so you can be physically fit to do whatever needs to be done. If you need to hide, stop, drop, and roll underneath something, you know, these are the things that like it requires some some physicality. So if nothing else, you're exercising because you want to be prepared in case of an emergency. And it's so real, right? So I was talking to a nurse. I think I had shared this with you guys before, maybe on the empowerment prayer call, but she's a nurse. And she was, and one of my concerns was that my community is filled with a lot of older people. So yeah, maybe I can run fast, but they can't. What do we do? And that was a real concern of mine. So, you know, really, honestly, she was like, if it's in a situation where you have to knock them down to get low, then do that. And if you need to fix an ankle later, then you rather fix an ankle than them not be here. And so that kind of leads me to my last point, which is stop, drop, and roll, right? So anytime something is going on, you want to get as low as possible. You want to be able to hide behind something, right? So if there's like, I'm thinking about a grocery store, and sometimes they have those little, I guess like end caps or things in the middle of the aisle, anything that can be any level of protection, right? So hiding behind something, getting under something, getting under tables, under desk. You want to bring as many people with you as possible. And of course, hush them lips, right? So it's not the time to be talking. Even if you're praying, again, you need to be praying under your breath. God can hear you. I promise you, he can hear you without you saying something out your mouth. So these are the things to be mindful. And when you are with people who may not be as mobile as you, may be a little bit seasoned in age, pull them along if you can. That's where it becomes, again, where we got to do our exercise so we can pull somebody along, or make sure, if nothing else, that they get low as possible, and be as rough as possible to get them low. You don't have time to be asking questions. This is not the time to be saying, well, why you name it? Get low, knock them down if they won't go low, and we'll fix everything else later. Okay, fix the wig, everything that came. We're going to fix it all later. But these are some of the things. So just a quick recap. Pray for God to order your steps as you're going into these places. Pray underneath your breath. Make sure you're taking notice of all exits. Be aware of your surroundings. Knowing your local news stations. Travel light. I'm sure some of y'all gonna get some lighter bags. I know it. Rehearse with your family, your loved ones. Exercise so you can be in a position and feel good about running or jogging if necessary, and then stop, drop, and roll. And just making sure you're bringing the elderly with you. That just keeps ringing in my heart, that we just need to be mindful of them as well. They are not as mobile in some cases, so make sure you're taking the elderly, the pregnant, those who aren't as mobile with you as well. So that is my how to prepare for emergencies in public places.
That was good, Kadesha.
Yes.
Thank you.
Both of these have been awesome. I mean, starting off with you, Naomi, kicking it off, and what you were sharing, Kadesha, in terms of the big highlights that came from Naomi was the same exact. I'm looking at my notes here, and the key to what we're talking about tonight is just about saving lives. And like you were saying, Kadesha, is not to inflict any fear or anything of that nature, but it's just to make us more aware of things. And again, going back to the whole goal is to reduce the fear, the anxiety, and the amount of loss. So when you're informed, you feel more empowered, you feel more confident. So that's why I was excited about when we were talking about this whole topic, and I was excited to hear what you two would be sharing, because it is really important. I mean, when you think about all aspects of where we are in terms of being out in the public, and just those points of being aware of the exit signs. And I was chuckling as well, because I guess it's probably been a few months now, and I was actually at the car dealership getting my car serviced, and I don't know, I may be hyper vigilant. I'm one of those people, always just aware of my surroundings. And I was in there waiting for them to finish, and I always have a book with me, but again, in reading my book, I'm kind of scanning, and this one guy came in and, you know, he probably looked like he could have probably been coming from a construction job, but, you know, it was kind of little on a ruffled side. And, you know, he just had moves, and I had shared this with y'all in terms of, you know, he was just moving quickly, and, you know, he's going through his phone like this, and he had this little backpack on. You mentioned the backpack, and that's what made me really think about him. And he sat the thing down, and then he goes to the bathroom area. Then all of a sudden he just zooms past and leaves the bag there. Now, my mind, anybody knows me, know my imagination goes to all kinds of levels. And I'm just like, Lord Jesus, what is in that bag? And I'm like, you know, I'm having conversations with myself. Like, do I go and like report this? And then I'm like, but then what if it's nothing? Then I look crazy. But, you know, I'm sharing this story to say that you just never know. And I always say there are always signs when things happen. And then you always wonder, I shoulda, coulda, woulda, and all that other stuff. So I did go say something, and I'm not going to go through the whole story of it, but it turned out that he eventually came back and got his bag. They kind of had this long stick while he was going, because I was like, he went out that way. And my mind, as I'm telling them, I'm looking to see if my car is in the Bay Area where I could go ahead and just get it and go, because I was just like, I'm out of here. But unfortunately, it had been back for them doing the oil change and all that other stuff. So I felt like I was trapped, but I was at the door. So I did look for the exits, and I was ready to go. And I was just like, nobody talk to me, because I don't want to be seen as the one who, you know, said something. But the point is, it's never too crazy, because at the end, the guy who was servicing my vehicle, he was like, he said, what did you do? And I was like, I didn't do anything. And so the other guy was like, no, she was on point. She noticed something, and, you know, thank God it didn't turn out to be anything, but who knows? So again, you can never be too careful, is my story, but it does make for good laughter for now.
I mean, and the truth is, it's better to be like that old adage, safe than sorry. It could have been something. And if you didn't say anything, you know, then it's like, you know, it's too late for regret, especially if you're not here.
Wait a minute. So I got to share this. So somebody was telling me a story, and it had to be, you know, so after something like this, right? So somebody teaching on preparedness or something like that. So that evening, they see something in their neighborhood, and what seemed as if some rifles, right? So they blowing them up, blowing 911 up. They getting down, they doing the whole nine. And so it ended up being, but all I could see was like them on the floor, right? And in this case, somebody was, Lord have mercy, somebody was pregnant, right? So she can only get as low. She's like, I'm as low as I can get. So it ended up being water guns, right? And but it's like, I love the fact, like, there was no games being played. Okay, we're going to take all the measures, and the police actually were appreciative, right? Because somebody else thought the same thing. And so it was good practice. And so if nothing else, these instances get us ready for if anything would ever happen. But when they told me that story, I mean, we laughed, because like you said, we're on the other side of it. It was nothing. But sometimes you have to be that extreme, right? Because it's going to save somebody else's life. So absolutely, that's funny.
And we live in a generation too, real quickly, where we have to be on high alert, because there's always something happening, as we know. So I mean, so for somebody to be on high alert like that, I'd rather for someone to be that way versus inactive because of fear and those things like that. Yeah,
absolutely. Cool beans. Well, I'm going to round us off tonight, and we're going to talk about it from the standpoint of being prepared on the home front. You know, in the beginning with the video, we saw things like the tornadoes, the earthquakes, the hurricanes, all those things are going on. And, you know, a lot of times we assume it's not going to happen in my city or in my state, but I know over the past year or so, there have been some things that happen in the Northeast that we haven't seen in years. And in some cases, the intensity hasn't been there. So things are changing. So we have to make sure that we are prepared when it comes to that home front. And there's a quote that says that the best time to prepare for severe weather is when there isn't a cloud in the sky. And that's what it boils down to, is like, you can't prepare when it's happening. You have to take care of those measures prior to. So I want to, obviously can't cover everything, but I do want to hit on the basics in terms of emergency preparedness from the home front side. So first and foremost, we need to create and actually practice a family disaster plan. And I heard that in the video, and also Kadesha, from the standpoint of preparing and doing things on the outside as well, but it comes on the inside here as well. So as a family, you know, you have that clearly outlined family disaster plan. Like, what are we going to do when something happens in terms of something weather related? And so when we talk about creating that plan, it's about making sure first and foremost, we have those severe weather alerts in place. So you were talking about being able to listen out, whether it's the radio or the television stations, being able to know what's going on, but also being able to know whether it's time for us to evacuate. In addition to that, we have to program those emergency contact numbers in our phone. But not only that, we need to actually write them down on sheets of paper, because if something happens with the phone, and I know I'm guilty these days, years ago, I could rattle off any phone number, and now, you know, I have to look at my phone for some numbers. And really, my thing is I'm trying to retrain myself to not have to rely on the phone for phone numbers for emergency situations, where if your phone gets broke, or, you know, the battery died and now you don't know who to call because you can't even use your phone, you don't want to be in that situation. So again, when we're talking about that preparedness, the other thing is we got to decide where we're going to shelter. So if the command or the advice is to shelter in place, where are we going to shelter in place in our house? Is it in the basement? Or if you don't have a basement, then a bathroom. The bottom line, it needs to be in an area where there are no windows. So if glass breaks or whatever, you know, people aren't hit with the shattering glass. Also, we need to identify a location outside of the household. So, you know, if we do have to evacuate, where are we going to actually gather together as a family to make sure everybody is okay? And not only that escape route leading us out of our house to that location outside of the house, but we also need to have an escape route when it comes to leaving our neighborhood. Because if the situation is so bad and maybe some roads are shut down because of maybe down trees or down power cords and things of that nature, we should at least have one alternative route to be able to get out of our neighborhood and onto the main highways. Also, for those who have pets, you know, you have to think about, what are you going to do in terms of your escape plan with the pets? Because when you think about pets, as soon as they hear a loud noise, they're going to run and hide. So you have to make sure you have a plan in place to be able to, first and foremost, capture them. But the other thing is, God forbid they do get lost. Like, you know, you can't find them and you're like, we got to get out. And now, you know, if the dog or a cat or whatever actually survives, if you don't have the microchip, at least have an ID tag on them. You were talking about IDs for us, but also your animals should have an ID tag, because if they're lost, somebody will be able to hopefully return them. But the other part of it is have a picture of your pet as well, so that when you're trying to describe them, instead of, you know, everybody have their own description of how they do things, but it's easier if you just have a picture of them. And the other thing, when it comes to your pets, before something happens, make sure, in the event that you may have to go to a shelter, make sure they accept pets. Every shelter does not allow pets. And that's not the day that you want to find out that that particular shelter that you're going to doesn't allow pets. So the bottom line, when it comes to our disaster plan, not only do we have to have one in place, but we have to make sure everybody understands how to run that plan. But the other thing is, what is their actual role? You know, somebody may have the role of getting the family pet. Somebody may have the role of grabbing the emergency kit, which we'll talk about. And somebody else, you know, when you talk about older siblings, they may have the responsibility of grabbing one of the younger kids. So again, everybody has a role to play. And again, going back to that whole drill, you know, yeah, we may not have a weather related incident, but let's act like we have one, and let's actually run the play. So that's key. Also, one quick thing for singles, oftentimes we talk about the emergency plans and with the family, but you or your family. So you still need to run these drills as well, because again, when we're thinking about an emergency, a lot of times we're not in our right mind. You hear alarm go off or something happen, especially if it happens in the middle of the night, you're just like jumping up, but you want to make it so that it's automatic where, boom, something happens and I'm going out this door or this exit. If that one I can't get out, I'm gonna go to the next one. And I mentioned the emergency kit, and what also came up in the video in the beginning. And I just want to talk about what that entails. So when we talk about having an emergency kit in place, you want to make sure you have at least 3 days worth of food and water in that kit. So when we talk about food, non-perishable items, canned stuff, maybe you don't usually eat canned things, but at this time you can't get picky with your food. So canned fruits, canned vegetables, even canned meat, tuna fish, the little chicken breast that's in the little can, all those things. The other thing of it is make sure you have a manual can opener. We have so many things that are electric these days. So make sure you always have a manual can opener. The other thing is things like protein bars, fruit bars, dry cereal, granola. Again, things that you can easily pack and don't necessarily have to cook. Also, drinking water. I'm inclined to say spring water, but I realize everybody don't drink spring water. Some people drink purified water. Whatever your water is that you drink, you want to have water. And the rule of thumb is you should have 1 gallon of water per day per person. So if you're looking at 3 days worth, each person in the family that you're preparing for should have 3 gallons of water. That will cover your 3 days. Some other things to include will be sanitation supplies, toilet paper, moist towelettes, soap, disinfectants, trash bags, those kind of things, flashlights, extra batteries, battery operated radio. You think about that and make sure you have the extra batteries for that. And then extra clothing and blankets, especially, if it's the winter months or things of that nature. Also, depending on your situation, you may need to include baby food, bottles, diapers, pet supplies, the pet food. If you're on any type of prescription medications, have those things available. Also, if you wear eyeglasses, make sure you have an extra pair just in case something happens to the one. If you're wearing contact lenses, make sure you have your solution in there as well. The other thing, when we talk about what's in that emergency kit, you want to make sure you have a first aid kit as well. You never know if you end up with cuts and bruises, so bandages and all those other things. And another thing that needs to be in that emergency kit will be important documents. Kadesha, you mentioned the ID, but also things like your social security cards, birth certificate, passports, because if those things get damaged in a severe weather event, it'll turn an already bad situation even worse. And another piece of those documents should be insurance documents. So homeowners insurance policies, the policies on our vehicles, if you're renting an apartment, renter's insurance, because the key is if there is damage to any of your property, then you need to first of all, have the claims department number to contact. In addition to that, your policy numbers, and you want to also know what your policies actually cover. The key to that emergency kit, you can have all those things, but if you do not put it in a waterproof container, it's not going to do you any good, especially if there's a flood or you get outside and it's pouring raining. So all those things, make sure it's in a waterproof kit. And the last thing is, I'm going to call it the practical things. These are things that when we're not in an emergency, we're like, oh yeah, I would know to do that. But when we're in emergencies, what ends up happening is things that seem obvious ends up getting neglected or forgotten. So things like keep your car filled up with gas, because if you have to evacuate, you do not want to be in line with everybody else trying to get gas, or you're trying to bypass the line and say, I'm just going to drive to where I'm going, and then your car stops because you run out of gas. The second thing is keep the phones charged. Again, it sounds like you should do it, but I mean, just me this past week, I don't know, 2 times I done ran into my bars down to red. And I'm like, that's not good. The other thing is when there's a potential for a power outage, make sure you turn your freezer and refrigerator up to the coldest possible so that you can get your refrigerator and your freezer as cold as possible. So if the electricity does go off, at least your stuff will stay cold a little longer. And the last thing is move things as needed. If things need to come in, bring them in. Things that can't come in, you need to anchor them down. But the bottom line is, like we said before, it's just about having your best laid plans and putting them into practice and putting them into play and making your family run the whole routine so that it becomes second nature. And when those things happen, there will be no fear, no anxiety, because we have a game plan and we're able to do what we need to do to get where we need to go. So hopefully that helps you, and we'll
Yes.
keep on.
That was very, very good. Very, very good. And somehow I don't know how 60 minutes goes by so fast, but I think it was you, Alisha, who said something in the beginning, you know, when we're informed, we're empowered. And that's really the whole premise of Wisdom on the Wall, our nonprofit, but also our show, When Wisdom Talks. And so, again, this was another episode where we wanted to empower you to be prepared, right? In the case of a national disaster, any emergency. And so we know the word says that we perish for lack of knowledge. So we gave you some knowledge, we gave you some wisdom, some instruction. So hopefully, you know, there was some tidbits that you can take home. And don't just take it home, share it with somebody. Share it with somebody that you love. So we appreciate you tuning in tonight, this Thursday. We hope that you will tune in next month. Wow. Next month for July. Next week, we'll be here, same place. Of course, this episode of When Wisdom Talks was brought to you by Wisdom on the Wall, Inc. and Be Inspired Global. Don't forget, we're empowering 3 times a week. We have pop-up prayer call, empowerment prayer call, and then we're here again every Thursday. So we appreciate your support, your encouragement, and we trust that you can feel the love through the airwaves. So in the interim, make sure to stay safe, stay blessed, stay in faith, and stay safe. Have a good night, y'all.